unfortunate news for the Hawks and for Jalen Johnson, who's having a fantastic season. The Hawks have been really kind of, falling apart at the seams here. But Jalen Johnson has been incredible. I mean, blossoming into a star-level player in a lot of ways so far this season. 18 points, nearly 19 points, 10 rebounds a game, 5 assists a game. And has been playing some of his best basketball. Unfortunately, we will not see him for the remainder of the year as he will undergo season-ending surgery to repair a shoulder injury. This from Shams Charania. Jalen Johnson out for the remainder of the year. Just tough. Absolutely tough. And this is multi-layered. There's a couple of different things to factor into the equation here. As I mentioned, the Hawks are a bit in a free fall. They've lost 6 straight, 3-7. Offensively, they're tough to watch right now. They can't make a shot to save their fucking lives. They lose last night to the oh my God, I watched it. Why am I so bad at this? I watched that game last night. They lose last night to the Houston Rockets, of course, the Houston Rockets. No shame in that. Absolutely no shame in that. But it was, symptomatic of what's been going on here for the Hawks. 23% from 3 on 47 attempts. They cannot make a shot currently. They absolutely cannot make a shot. I mean, look at their lineup. They're dealing with so many injuries. Bogey's out. He's missed a good chunk of time this season, and he looks a step slow. I mean, something's off with Bogdan Bogdanovic. He looks really, really rough out there. Really, really rough when he does play. Trae Young also does not look like himself. He's dealing with a lingering hamstring injury, and I was just seeing some Hawks fans on the timeline last night discussing whether or not Trae Young needs to be shut down for an extended period of time just so he can heal this hamstring injury that he's dealing with. There have been some positives, like obviously the Great Barrier Thief. I mean, Dyson Daniels been one of the stories of the season. Jalen Johnson was a huge plus for them. I mean, DeAndre Hunter's been playing some good basketball. Wasn't very efficient last night, but has been playing some really good basketball for them. So all of that's good. Like DeAndre Hunter a year ago was like, dude, what a shitty ass contract this is going to be. Now all of a sudden he's become an interesting player. Onyeka Okongwu has been slotted into their starting 5. Like he's been really, really solid, but they're super injured and they just can't make a 3 right now to save their lives. That's the problem. And now Jalen Johnson's been dealing with a shoulder injury, but I think this is a different shoulder, the other shoulder than the one he's been dealing with at times throughout the season. All bad. And shoulder injuries can be difficult. Those can be strange, right?
Young star Jalen Johnson out for the rest of the season.
Haynes brief.
With another Haynes brief for you this morning. League sources inform me that Hawks Jalen Johnson sustained a torn labrum in the left shoulder and will be out the remainder of the season. He suffered the injury last week against the Toronto Raptors. Now, this comes as a huge blow to the Hawks and Johnson, considering he emerged as a young star.
Why is it so quiet?
In his 4th season. The Hawks have been struggling as of late, and this news surely will not help their case. This is Chris Haynes, and you've been briefed.
You have been briefed. Chris Haynes, I love it. I love the tagline. I really do. Now, I got to say, we've got about a 10-second intro followed by a 20-second outro and a 52-second video. You got to respect the game, man. You have to respect the game. But this is a big deal, obviously. Jalen Johnson has been far and away their second best player this season, and losing him for the remainder of the year definitely limits what they can be. Here's where the big-time problem comes for the Hawks, for the rest of the league, and how this could have implications moving forward. I want to point you over to this right here. The San Antonio Spurs incoming draft picks. 2025. The San Antonio Spurs have the Atlanta Hawks draft pick completely and totally unprotected. Now, this is big. This is big for a lot of different reasons. My initial thought here is that's obviously part of the DeJounte Murray trade. Now, my initial thought here is, well, I've seen people say the Hawks just need to blow it up. Hawks need to take. They can't. They don't have an incentive to. They don't have their draft pick this year bottoming out the remainder of the season, which they might do unintentionally, but bottoming out the rest of the season intentionally by trading off guys here and there really isn't in their best interest. Now, does that mean that they shouldn't? Does that mean that they should just, you know what, we can't give the Spurs a top pick. We have to go hard the remainder of the year? Not necessarily. I think people assume that. You shouldn't assume that. If a team comes to you and says, hey, we'll give you X, Y, and Z for DeAndre Hunter, and it's a good trade for you, you should do it. Who gives a fuck if you give the Spurs a top 7 pick, right? Your main priority needs to be improving your situation from here on out. If someone comes to you and says, hey, we'll give you X, Y, and Z for Bogdan. Like, I know he's shooting poorly, but we have faith that he's going to turn around. Cool. Do it. We'll give you X, Y, and Z for Clint Capella. Expiring contract. Cool. Do it. Larry Nance. Cool. Do it. Vic Krejci. Cool. Do it. Another thing I thought immediately was, if this is just my 2K brain, if I were the GM of the Spurs, and we'll talk more about this in a bit, the De'Aaron Fox stuff, that'll be the bulk of what we talk about today, honestly. If I'm the San Antonio Spurs, this is my green light. Honestly, this is my green light. I know it sounds weird, but this Hawks pick just became so much more valuable. I now look at the idea of maybe trading some of our younger guys, maybe trading some future picks. If we hold on to a Hawks pick in a potential De'Aaron Fox trade and think, man, we can get a top 6, top 7 player and what's supposed to be a pretty loaded draft class, like, let's trade some of our young guys. Let's go for it. Let's get De'Aaron Fox right now. Lock him in. Sign him an extension. We're fucking set. We're ready to go. This is our team. De'Aaron, whoever we keep in the trade, Wemby, we still have draft picks. We still have young players that we like. That's pretty damn good. That is pretty damn good. Oh, God, if they get Cooper Flagg in this whole deal. Do you like Fox Wemby or Trey Wemby more? Trey Wemby's really interesting offensively, but I do think I like Fox Wemby a little bit more. Another reason I like it is Trey's a great player, obviously. Great offensive engine. I do think underappreciated in the league. De'Aaron Fox, I think, is more of a, when he's locked in, go-to scorer, I'll go get a bucket whenever I want guy than Trey is, especially like in the past year where Trey's really kind of struggled in those one-on-one scenarios at times, going and getting a bucket. And yeah, Fox is a better defender. Although I think Fox is, I don't know how much of it is a focus thing. I think Fox's defense is a tiny bit overrated at times. But I think for the Spurs, a guard who's just like, go to any moment, I can get us 30 or 40 points if we need it. I think Fox is a better option in that regard, and that is something that they need. But yes, Trey and Wemby pick and roll is just disgusting to think about, for sure. But for what the Spurs are building, I do think Fox makes a little bit more sense. Spurs have the most draft picks out of all teams till 2031 with 36 overall, 16 firsts. Jesus. So this is the Spurs. Okay, let's talk about that here in a bit because we'll get into that. But this is pretty big for the Hawks. I really wonder what they do now because your ceiling as a team is gone, decimated. I don't know what your ceiling was to begin with. With Jalen Johnson, Trey, Dyson Daniels, all those guys, Okongwu playing the way he's playing. And if you want to project a little bit, hey, maybe Bogey finds his shot and he turns into, more of the player he was last year. He should have won 6th man of the year, honestly. But if he turns into that guy again, then, playing team, don't think you win a playoff series, but you're kind of a tough out. Like, teams aren't like, fuck yeah, we got the Hawks in round 1. But now all of a sudden you're without Jalen Johnson. Trey's dealing with a lingering hamstring injury. Now you go doom and gloom. Bogey looks like shit. Playing the worst basketball since he's been traded to the Hawks. Looks old. Now all of a sudden it becomes a different conversation. And that conversation now is, you're not in control of your picks. Bottoming out isn't a thing that you should be aiming for because you don't have your first. So it's not like you can just bottom out. Boom, we bottom out. We can land a top 5. Like, that's not in the cards for you, but your ceiling's been diminished. You might owe it to yourself to shop some guys around that maybe otherwise you weren't thinking about shopping around to see if you can at least get some return, right? Capella's expiring. $22 million. I was doing some research on it. The Hawks don't want money. in the summer. So any trade with them is complicated because I don't think they want contracts that extend beyond this year unless it's somebody that they're upgrading or a young player with upside, whatever the case may be. Like, they're not taking, like, I keep seeing the Larry Nance for Maxi Kleber deal. I don't think they want Maxi at all. Like, that, I highly doubt that's something that they would be interested in whatsoever. Right? I kind of was thinking like a Lonzo type of thing, an expiring guard off the bench because they need another ball handler. But Clint Capella, $22 million. Is that something that's a team out there might want? Is DeAndre Hunter now on the table? He's rehabbed his value pretty significantly. If the Pacers call you and they're like, hey, here's Obi Toppin and one of our maybe younger guys, DeAndre Hunter, let's make a trade. Do you consider that more now? Do you consider trading Bogey? It's funny you say that. It feels like there are 0 teams that want to take money outside of like Washington and Portland who already have big contracts, so they can't. Yeah, there's not going to be any. The trade rules have changed things dramatically. Teams are not going to want to have shitty contracts on their books just to do it. That era is done. If the Bulls trade Vooch, then I guess we'll take Capella for Lonzo. I mean, it could happen. I don't think it'd be like a Capella for Lonzo trade. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, really. The Hawks can take a stab at Cam Whitmore for the right price, but what are the Rockets getting? Fanspo disagrees. Yeah, Fanspo is in their own little alternate universe where there's no trade rules. They're just like stuck in 2020 when we're just doing whatever the fuck we want. Don't the Hawks want to bring Capella back on a cheaper Jonas-like deal? That is what it sounds like. That they want to bring him back on a cheaper deal, have him back up Okongwu. That's a nice little situation they've got. No, a Capella on a $10 million deal. I mean, $22 million is not what you want to pay Capella, but $10 million to be your backup big, you could do way worse than that. Way worse. It's just, it's interesting. It's an interesting little dilemma here. And it throws a wrinkle in things. Absolutely. In the next week or so. Because the Hawks might consider things they otherwise weren't considering. And what does that look like for the remainder of the league? I don't know. If I were them, a team calls about Bogey and they think they can fix him, I would probably do that. That's a scary situation there. It's not like Bogey's 24 years old. He's older. He's dealt with like 7 different lower body injuries this year. Looks a step slow. Sure, maybe he can bounce back, but there's also a very real world where he doesn't, and he's just kind of washed now. If a team would give me something in return for that, cool, I would do it right now. If I thought I could get like a young, cheaper player for DeAndre Hunter with some upside, I would consider it, even though DeAndre Hunter has been really solid for them. I don't think they're like super motivated to trade him or anything like that. Hunter to OKC feels a little too expensive for OKC. Like, that feels difficult for them to match that salary. Indiana makes sense to me for a DeAndre Hunter landing spot. Cleveland's always kind of been rumored for him. I don't know what that would look like contractually. Like a Coro, and when they have to throw in someone else, like a Niang. Does that move you if you're the Hawks? Like, oh, we get a younger guy in a Coro who's cheaper. I don't know. One thing you always have to remember when you're projecting trades, there are some teams that refuse to spend money no matter what. We always take an idea like, yeah, this would be great. This would be great. Like, some teams just like, I don't want to fucking spend money. I don't want to go into the tax. I don't want to have salary on my books moving forward. We always forget that. Such a shame they hit the lottery to win Ricochet. Yeah, that's tough. That really is a tough pill to swallow. Tough pill to swallow. Are there any trades to get Bogey to Milwaukee to add some scoring punch off the bench? Doesn't solve being slow, though. That's probably complicated due to what's Bogey at? Like 16 mil? Isn't that right? Somewhere around there. Not a terrible contract if you think that you could get him back to where he was. 17 mil this year, 16 the year after, and a team option, 16 million, which I'm assuming is partially guaranteed. If I had to guess, that's usually how team options work. You're talking about a guy who 30. I mean, you look at his numbers this year: 37% from the field, 30% from deep. That's so bad that it's just like. Surely he gets better, right? Surely this is just some unbelievable shooting slump that he's in. We see your Twitter, not the stats. Oh, I know. I was just looking at it off to the side. $10 points a game, 30% from three. Really struggling lately. But again, doesn't look right physically. Which guard has been better? Former Kings, current Hawks guard, Bogey, or current Kings, former Hawks guard, Herter? Oh, God. Do I have to answer that? What do you think about Exum and Najee coming back? I'm excited. Bogdan not that good of a player. He's shot chucker and doesn't play defense. I thought last year, I thought Bogey was awesome. And I really like Bogey as a player. Always been a great shooter. Always been, truthfully, like an elite shooter, all things considered. Can shoot, catch and shoot off the dribble. Can create for himself a little bit. I do like him. Plays hard as fuck. But yeah, if he's not knocking down shots and he looks slow and can't get into the paint anymore, create for himself, then yeah, all of a sudden it's just like, what does he do for you? When Exum gets upgraded to questionable, he'll probably end up with a fractured foot randomly. Don't say that, bro. You were thrilled almost a year ago when Nick Lyden said Mavs traded for him, right? Not even a year ago. This summer, I thought that was like, oh shit, that's sick. It was also more like I didn't even like that didn't even cross my mind. Bogey on the Mavs. So if you cooked up any trades for the Mavs, I'm telling you guys right now, shit's gonna get gross. Okay, I'm just telling you. Dante Exum for Javonte Green. Think about that. Dante Exum for Torrey Craig. Process that. It ain't pretty. Dante Exum for Daniel Tice. Okay? That needs to be where your mind's at. That needs to be where your mind's at, guys. Okay? That needs to be where your brain goes.